Hey gamers, and welcome to my Gate 1 guide video for Voldis, Ivory Tower, the Trampled Garden? I don't know, this dungeon has too many names. It's the Abyss dungeon that requires 1600 item level to enter normal and 1620 to enter hard mode. In this video, I'll be walking you through Gate 1 and all the parts that I consider important to know for your first run. Now, I am going to assume that you know the basics of Lost Ark, like counters, staggers, destructions, but other than that, I'm going to try to make this as beginner-friendly as possible. So let's get started. All right, first we're going to talk about the items in this fight. So obviously you're going to take potions, then you're going to take either dark grenades or flame grenades, then you're going to take either atropines or time stops, and then you're also going to take sacred charms. The sacred charms are for freeing your teammates when they get put to sleep, and the flame grenades are for a particular part of the fight where you need to deal fire damage. Alright, so this fight is mostly broken up into 3 different phases. Phase 1 is super easy. It's just the damage phase. There's really nothing special that happens other than her normal attacks. Part of the way through this phase, she's going to teleport to the middle and she's going to start shooting out these orbs. They're green and purple. This is mostly just a quick practice round for the real first mechanic that's going to happen later. The important part about these orbs is that green is good, purple is bad. That's all you really need to know. When the real mech starts, the boss becomes completely DR'd. You can't do any damage. So your number 1 priority here is just dodging. If you're dodging every single orb, then dodge every single orb. The most important thing you dodge is these yellow lines on the ground. If you manage to grab 3 green orbs, you get this huge stagger buff that makes this stagger phase way faster, but it's super unnecessary. You can actually just get through the entire phase without grabbing a single orb and just dodging everything. As long as your whole team doesn't get pinned up against the wall and you guys can stagger consistently, you should be able to get through this mech no problem. When you clear the mechanic, there's a quick zoom out, the boss becomes completely untargetable, and these plants will spawn around the outside of the map. You can see them here. This is the beginning of Phase 2. So now, in Phase 2, there's these extra plants at the side of the map, and they will eat you if you get too close and don't jump out of their AoE. Now that we're in Phase 2, the only real hard part of this entire fight is going to start now. So periodically, throughout the rest of the fight, a random player is going to get a target above their head. What this means is that this player is going to be the target of this yellow trail that comes from the flowers at the edge. If any player comes in contact with this yellow trail on the ground, not just the person targeted, but any player, if you touch it, it will create a yellow circle on the ground that will grab and kidnap any player who is in it, and it will send them into one of these plants around the edge of the arena. Any of the players grabbed will be released eventually, but the teammates can also hit the plants to break them out early. Around 45 bars, the boss is going to do a quick transition into the final mech and dash around the outside of the arena. There's going to be some exploding flowers on the inside and these yellow vines again. If you get hit by a yellow line, you will get pinned up against the wall, kind of like this. At the end of the transition phase, do not attack the boss in the middle. If you do any damage to the boss, the damage will reflect back at you and you will die. All right, a quick note, this final mech doesn't need to be cleared to successfully beat this boss, but she will soften rage if you don't do this properly. Okay, so there are 2 different things to worry about during this phase. The first thing that you're going to worry about are these yellow spores that you can see on the map right now. These yellow spores need to get taken care of by having the person with the target stand on top of them. Once the trail that follows the person with the target gets to them and the yellow circle shows up under their feet, they're going to jump out of it so that the plant eats the spore. The plant is going to destroy the yellow spore instead of kidnapping a player. If you don't destroy these yellow spores in time, they explode and create a dust cloud around them that will put players to sleep. The next thing you have to worry about during this fight are the purple spores. The purple spores are super easy to take care of. You just have to walk up to them and hit them with 2 auto attacks. Once you hit them with 2 auto attacks, you'll see them fly towards the boss. The objective of this mechanic is to get 15 or more of these pink spores to go towards the boss. Every time you get one on the boss, it'll add a stack of the debuff. You can see the debuffs under the boss's HP bar. When this buff timer runs out on the boss, you're going to use flame attacks, flame grenades, whatever you have to burn these roots. Any kind of fire damage will burn these roots. If you do this mech properly and you burn the roots at the right time, then all of the plants around the outside of the map become crippled for the final phase of the fight. And it basically just goes back to Phase 1 again, where you're just going to dodge her normal attacks and deal a ton of damage until you eventually beat her. If you do not clear the mechanic, then all of the plants are alive. All of her attacks do more damage now in this final phase, and it's just kind of a pain. But it's still clearable. Okay, lastly, I'm just going to go over a couple notable patterns that the boss does here. Only the ones that really matter. Everything else you guys can just figure out and dodge on your own. The first one we're going to talk about is what we call the shotgun pattern. Basically, the boss is going to spin this green crescent magic thing above her head, and then she's going to shoot a whole bunch of them in front of her in a shotgun formation. If you are standing directly in front of the boss during this, you will die. The next pattern is the one where she splits into 4. One of these 4 needs to be countered. It will flash blue before you counter it, like any other counterattack. If you're trying to figure out which one needs to be countered, it moves a little bit differently than the others. All right, the last one is this pattern. When she sends this pink swirl up into the air, you are going to look away from the boss. If a single person is looking during that little pink pulse that she sends out, then she'll create one of those yellow spore clouds that puts everybody to sleep. Now, if you do happen to get put to sleep by any of those like little yellow dust clouds or whatever, your teammates can use their sacred charms to free you, or they can just walk up and slap you around a little bit until that purple bar under your feet is gone. But other than that, that's the whole fight. I promise you guys, it's really nothing to stress about. It's super easy, and you definitely have the ability to clear this fight. Anyway, good luck out there. Let me know if any of this helps, and thanks for watching. Did you hear that? Did you hear what I just said?